Next up, we had South of Midnight, though. This is a game that I know Zach and I, at least for sure, have been really interested in since the initial trailer. John's kind of had his eye on it too. Overall, I think the entire presentation they had for it was pretty sick. We did get the release date of April 8th. Shout out to that. Busy few months coming up, especially April. But it just really emphasized on like that dark modern folktale style, like in a fictional, Americanized Deep South, whatever. Really focused on that. Kind of gave you the general premise of like what you're going to be doing and working on, where it's like trying to find your mother. I mean, they essentially established that about midway through the presentation, where at the beginning it's like kind of towards the beginning, it's like you get some story tidbits where there's a hurricane about to go down. They kind of get in a little bit of a fight kind of thing. Hurricane kind of sweeps things away, and then everything goes to shit, and there's a lot of magical stuff kind of getting involved. And as well as her discovering that she is a weaver and can essentially kind of weave the world.
Well, backtrack that. She wasn't a weaver. She was chosen to be a weaver.
Yeah, chosen to be a weaver. Correct. And just kind of emphasizing really on the very unique kind of world that has been created with this Deep South kind of folklore and everything. We were talking before the show. It's like when I was watching this, and like just like with how the weaving powers work and everything, and just the whole concept of like all these different creatures that are kind of like they kind of talked about in the presentation to be like cursed to wander. You know what I mean? I got the immediate vibe of like, in terms of like the magical abilities for with the weaving, I thought Forspoken. I know that's everyone's favorite game to talk about. And then also I got a little bit of like Kena Bridge of Spirits vibe. That was kind of the vibe I was picking up.
I'm going to be honest, neither of them's probably going to have nearly as solid of a soundtrack.
You are correct. You are correct on that. But I mean, I thought everything that they showed with South of Midnight, I thought was very impressive. And it's just further on my radar.
I'm very happy with it. We got a lot more detail compared to the last thing we got, which just showed us a small little bit of small section of gameplay of, I assume, the levels with the gator.
Oh yeah, boss fights and stuff.
Well, the previous trailer, which was just running from the gator from the church. The thing that I do want to note is just how much the art style changed from that previous trailer to this one, because the previous art design was a lot more cell shaded, which I personally felt fit more, but it looks so pretty on that Unreal Engine 5 now that they've using it on. And I mean, overall, the entire art design just looks fantastic. What they've done with each of the zones, they've said they've more or less created each of the zones specific art style for the initial final boss fight for that zone, and we got a glimpse at 3 bosses. They didn't really say if that's going to be all the bosses, but we did get that.
There was no hard number on the bosses, but that was something they really kind of emphasized, is how each region is going to be very distinct and different from each other, and really focus on who's wandering it. So.
Yeah, and the whole main soundtrack, just they put a deep emphasis as well on how the soundtrack will change during specific points when you're during your journey as you're changing, helping heal the land, and in terms of the boss fights themselves. The music's apparently going to crescendo in different ways based on the different phases, because they said each boss fight's going to have phases.
Right, yeah.
So that's going to annoy the hell out of people.
Did this whole presentation get you any more interested in the game, where it's going to be more on your radar?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention, is just this has been one, like, since it was shown off, it's kind of been, like, you guys have been excited about it, talking about it. It's kind of been in the back of my mind as one where I was like, I want to see a little more. And then even this presentation, I only watched like half of this section of it, because I felt like that's all I needed, because all I was looking for was confirmation of, is this something I'm looking forward to?
Yeah.
And as soon as they kind of like emphasized like a little more into the folklore and that, and as soon as they started getting into how like the story in that worked, and kind of how some of the like the magic system and that was kind of gonna function, I was like, I got what I needed.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely on my radar now. It's one that, like, it may not be the immediate pickup, but it's a 2025 play for sure.
Yeah. I like how before the show, when I mentioned the Forspoken thing, you made the comments like, "This is what I thought Forspoken would look like."
It's one where, like, because you mentioned Forspoken, and I was sitting over here, I was like, and it kind of blew my mind for a second, because it was exactly the thought that I had.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this looks like this kind of looks like what Forspoken should have been.
Yeah.
In a like visual and kind of vibe way.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I am definitely intrigued with the whole combat system they've put together, because they very much said it was going to be combo base oriented, based on whatever you can string together.
Yeah. Which that's gonna be the interesting aspect of it, because they showcased a couple different ways to essentially do the weaving, where it's like you have like the wand and like two like almost like sickle looking things.
You have the spindle, you have the needles, and then there was one other thing I forgot that they showed off, but it mostly showed her using the spindle and then the needles.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, overall, this whole presentation was great, especially since they focused so much on the vibe of the game. Because, I'm glad we got a good dosage of gameplay, right? Because we needed to see it. We need to see a better dosage of gameplay, and we did, and it looks great. But just really hammering it on the vibe of the game, everything they're going for, and that in terms of the world and stuff, and just how batshit crazy it's going to be. They nailed it. And it's like, if this game's not on your radar, it needs to be on your radar, especially since it's a Game Pass game. I mean, come on. What are we doing?
I was about to say, even if it's not one of your big hitters, you should at least put it in your backlog to hit up during the Mellow season, whenever that happens this year.
100%.